legends, I hope you're all fantastic. We've got the Lexicon MPX G2 on the bench today, which essentially is an expanded and upgraded Lexicon MPX 1, which I have previously featured on the channel. I absolutely love the effects in the MPX 1, and this takes those same effects, gives you the ability to run more simultaneous effects, and adds an analog preamp section in here with analog drives. You've got a few different effects like compressors and phasers and univibes, all sorts of fun stuff. And you've got the ability to run this in 4-cable method with your amp, which I'm doing at the moment. So let's hear my dry sound, and then I'm going to kick in this patch, which at the moment just has a bit of hall reverb on it. Classic Lexicon hall sound in there. If I want to tweak this, I can hit edit, I can hit reverb on here, and I can select between different reverb types. You've got chamber, hall, plate, ambience, gate in there. So maybe let's try a plate on here with this clean sound. You can hear that the mix is defaulted to 100%, so I can scroll across. Let's bring this mix down to maybe 40%. And where are we with the size and the overall pre-delay? I'll give it a bit of pre-delay, and hopefully there's a time control in here. Decay, let's do that. And turn it up a little bit. I want a lush plate on here. Let's try it. That's pretty sweet. Let's bring in a delay. I've got a dual delay selected. This is all pretty tasty so far. Let's maybe bring in some front end effects on here. Effect number 1, I have got set up as the blue compressor. You can see I've got controls for the mix, the level, the sensitivity, the threshold, the gain, and the attack time in here. Let's just hear it off and then on. You can hear in there, it's getting a little bit noisy, but I don't mind that. That's a pretty decent sounding compressor. It feels nice and squishy under the fingers. Let's add a drive in here. In the gain section, we can select between tone, crunch, screamer, overdrive, distortion. We've got a preamp section, which I will demo into a paramp in a second. We've got a split preamp as well. So I want to hear screamer in here. Let's select that. And what's cool is you've got these front panel gain controls in here, but I'll go through on here. So you've got low, mid, and high, which map to these controls. I'll leave them all at 0. Then you've got kind of typical pedal style controls. You've got gain, you've got tone, and you've got level. Let's bring the level up a little bit and just bring the tone down. Let's check that out on the neck pickup. little bit noisy, but that's a fairly decent sounding drive out of this unit. I'm going to bring the actual drive down a little bit. Let's select a different type. Maybe let's go with the Overdrive on here. Let's hear that. That's super decent sounding. I dig that. You've got this feel control on here, which all the way down, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the difference, but it gives you this. So that's interesting to me. It's like a sag control that you might get on a modern modeler. Feels a lot better with the feel all the way up. Surprise, surprise, right there. You also got stuff like a low cut control, which is super cool. That'll be useful into a dirty style amp, which I'll demo a little bit later. There's a lot of things I've said I'm going to do later. I will do my best to get to them. But then what's interesting is these gain controls kind of work like the bass, middle, and treble on a Mark series amp, where you can use them to shape the pre-gain. So if I bring down the high control, you can see it only goes as low as 0, but then I can kind of actively cut bass in here. Strat, I would be tempted to actually bring this low control up to fatten it up a little bit. Let's maybe hear another gain mode in here without turning it off. We've got fun stuff like the distortion and crunch. I want to hear crunch. What does crunch actually do? That's actually not too bad. It sounds like an amp in a box pedal. And like I said, we will hear that tube screamer in front of a dirty amp, and we also will hear the standalone preamp emulation. Well, I shouldn't say preamp emulation, it's an analog preamp. We will hear that standalone in a little bit, but let's hear some more effects. I'm going to turn the gain off and let's go to effects number 2. So let's take a look at what we've got in here. We've got a panner, we've got an auto pan, tremolo, univibe. Let's hear the univibe actually. I'm pretty keen to hear this. Like that at the stock settings, and hearing that distortion, it basically fills in as a fuzz. There is a custom vibe in here that you can select, which has a whole bunch of extra parameters in here if you really want to get nerdy with the univibe thing. Let's go back on here. That's not the right button because there is a standalone phaser on here. right, we've got to hear this orange phaser in front of a dirty amp. Let's come over here and then maybe we can hear that overdrive with the low cut. I'm just going to leave the mix at 100% and turn the rate down a little bit on this one. And again, you've got a little meter on here which kind of indicates what the rate is doing. So we've got it off and then we'll bring it in. That sounds absolutely amazing with the reverb and delay on there. Let's bypass it for a second and let's get chunky with this. I've got the overdrive in here and I'm going to play around with the low cut. I'll play on the neck pickup as well. So let's hear it. So yeah, the phaser is really good. That might be the best phase 90 style thing that I've heard in one of these old rack units by quite a long way. And the fact that you can route it before your amp distortion just adds to that level of enjoyment and grease. Having the low cut in there is really, really nice, as well as these kind of inauthentic but super awesome gain controls on here that let you tailor the type of drive to your guitar and pumping up the mids, adding a bit of bass to kind of jangly strat thing really, really helps, as you heard there. Okay, like on the MPX1, you've got awesome modulation effects in here, and I'm running these after the insert. I should mention as well, like the MPX1, if you go into the edit section, you can actually control things like the mix of several blocks in here. I got to use this. There's a speaker simulation in here, which I'm not using. There's a noise gate. You've got metering, and you can change the effect order. So you can see I'm just kind of running everything in series, but you can also change the routing order on here as well and do stuff like parallel chains. If you want your reverb and delay in parallel, you can put the reverb in the delay feedback loop like you can on the MPX1. So you still have all that really cool stuff. I just want to revisit something from the MPX1. Let's see if I have enough. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to effect number 2. I'm actually going to turn that one off in here. I have to hit edit. Okay. And then I've got to hit edit again because I want to come back here and hit effect 2. Come all the way across here. You know, it's not the easiest unit to edit, but it gets the job done. Let's go to chorus. I want to hear the aerosol effect on here because that is absolutely one of the most unique things about this era of Lexicon units. Do we have it on? Let's hear the preamp section in here now. You've got controls for level, treble, bass, tone, drive, feel, low cut, input level, and then these 3 gain controls on here. Again, I tend to think of these like I would think of the low, mid, and high on a Boogie Mark series. Not too bad on there. I feel like I need to spend a little bit more time with this to kind of get the lay of the land with it, so to speak. But you can definitely get everything from that super saturated lead thing that you heard, which I really, really liked, to a cleaner thing when you combine it with the compressor. I guess the idea here was probably like if you had a single channel amp that you were using for distortion, you could easily add an extra clean channel just using the built-in preamp in here, which makes me want to tweak this clean sound a little bit more in here. So let's do this. Let's bring the overall drive up a little bit, and I will just kind of manage things with the low, mid, and high. That's a pretty sweet little bluesy tone right there with a bit of delay and a bit of reverb on there. So yeah, the MPX G2, it's got some tricks up its sleeve. I think if you like the MPX one and you want it to do just slightly more stuff, you want the ability to run more effects blocks at the same time, this will do a great job. If you want something that can add like an extra channel or some front end drives and compressors to your existing rig, it'll do that as well. I don't know whether it's really worth the price difference that I see between like the average MPX one on Reverb and eBay and then these, just because these seem to be a little bit rarer. Maybe people like them more, so they hang on to them more. But you know, if you just wanted like a Tube Screamer style drive, then you could get a cheap Tube Screamer clone and an MPX one probably for less than you can find one of these. But then again, the market is so up and down on these kind of things that it's kind of hard to tell. What I want to do to just play you all out on is to just quickly go over the little circular delays patch that I've dialed in on here. It doesn't sound exactly like a PCM 70 or a PCM 81 or something like that, because what you're doing is putting the reverb in the delay feedback loop rather than having diffusion on the delays, but it's an excuse for me to get my PRS out. So let me know what you thought of the MPX G2 in the comment section below. Do you have one of these? Are you still rocking an MPX1 or an MPX G2? Let me know in the comment section below, and let me know any tips and tricks that I would have definitely missed out on doing a kind of skim on this kind of unit, even though this video is probably going to end up being more than 20 minutes. Anyway, these units I think are still excellent value for money. They sound superb. You know, if you just want a great Lexicon reverb and you don't want to shell out for a PCM81 or something like that, these will probably be close enough for rock and roll. There's some awesome features in there. You know, editing isn't as good as something that you get these days like a Helix or using Axe Edit with an Axe FX3, but again, that's kind of not the point of this old retro stuff, is it? So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to play you all out with this little circular delays patch.